Welcome back to Random Witchcraft with your hosts, Vix.
And Callie, word up, people.
Yay, we're back together.
For a brief second amongst the cosmos.
Well, today we're gonna have a fun little experiment, if you call it an experiment.
Or a murder-suicide, whichever one.
Today, we actually compiled a list of questions for each other.
Well, before we get into those questions, let's give our listeners just a brief synopsis on why we've been uploading just, you by yourself.
The solo.
The solo episodes, because they're probably like, are they mad? What is Thomas? Spill the tea!
Well, with me working too much and
me having my health issues, it's
been a little difficult to get us both in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, especially when me with my health issues, I get knocked out for 3 days in a row.
I think that's partially just because she's crazy.
Are you the pot? Or am I the kettle?
I don't smoke pot.
You used to.
That's beside the point. That's beside the point.
It's not like it's not legal anymore. It's not like it's a taboo thing. Let's be honest about it.
Well, it's not legal everywhere.
Okay, it's not legal everywhere. I'll give you that one. But let's be honest, it's, the marijuana, the Tijuana, has always been used in witchcraft.
Yeah.
For several different reasons.
Meditation and whatnot. And divining.
Or simply when you had, somebody who wasn't really particularly getting the right nutrients in their system. Here, give them weed. They'll get hungry. Eat, pass out.
Yeah.
But soon, hopefully, we'll get back to a regular schedule where you'll have both of our crazy, chaotic asses on the same, episode.
Yeah.
That's if the universe allows it to happen, because honestly, sometimes I think, they're just too much chaos spilling out into this world. Don't!
Yes, pray to the gods and goddesses and all the deities that our crazy asses get to play together again.
Why did that even make me afraid deep down in my soul? The normal person I buried amongst the crazy was like, no!
Now let's start with the questioning.
Hold on, we never flipped a coin to see who was going to go first.
I was going to let you go first.
Alrighty then.
What question would you like to start with?
Is there a spell or action that you wish you could change the outcome or keep the outcome and the lesson that you learned but go about differently?
And definitely one, it was probably a love spell from a long time ago. And probably would have been more detailed with my intentions.
It's all about the details.
The devil's in the details.
Or the perfection. Now, for myself, answering this question, I wouldn't change the outcome. I would probably try to convince my past self not to do things. And if I did do it, don't put so many of the intentions that I did into it. Messing with someone's will is probably the harshest lesson that I ever learned.
That actually, good answer. Just to touch upon that one. Actually, one of the questions that I chose was, tell me about a recent spell that didn't go as planned, and how so?
Well, that spell was a very long time ago, in the beginning of my journey.
Oh no, I'm talking about a recent spell.
That one is still in the works, so I'm not going to get into that one, because this recent spell is more of an empowerment for myself and getting rid of some of the negativity and toxicity that's been a constant, persistent thing in my life.
So basically, it's not going in the exact direction that you were planning.
It's not that it's not going in the exact direction that I was planning. It's just that the people I thought it wouldn't affect, it started to affect.
Usually happens. That's why you don't curse people you live with.
I didn't say it was people that I live with.
Didn't say that I was talking about that. That's the reason why you don't curse people that you live with, because the overlap. Now, here's a good question. Where would you say your craft is currently?
Hold on, wait. You just asked a question. Why are you trying to jump the gun and do a double question?
Okay, then I'll do that one next.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll do that one next.
I'm just trying to figure out. I thought we were taking turns. No, you want to be the school bully and be like, no, you're just not quick enough, so I'm just going to end up talking. Is that what happened?
So what question do you have for me?
Do you feel like your friends and family take your craft seriously? If they know, or they assume or think it's a joke?
I would probably say that they don't fully know exactly what I do. But they have some idea, kind of worries them, but there's a lot of confusion.
Now, answering this one for myself, and this one's going to make you laugh. I had gone to a family party, and most of my family members just, they find it as a joke. They don't take me seriously. Some do. And at this family party, everyone else went off into their own little thing. And naturally, I got bored. I brought my book. Pulled out said book, was reading. I had gotten about 2 chapters. Mind you, it was my American Brujeria book. And this was at the baby shower. Now, my niece's husband, family, turned around, and his brother turned around. I need to leave. I need to leave before I get cursed or hexed. And he was just freaking out, and I just sensed it. Closed my book, put it back in my bag, and sat there like. Well, meanwhile, her husband and her were just dying in hysterics because they're like, she would never do that to you. Now, if you pissed her off, maybe she would hex you, but she would never do that. She's very quite chill person, and everyone after that just kind of like area of bubble didn't come near me.
Interesting.
Okay.
I'll state the question again. Where would you say your craft is currently? Like the direction you are taking it at the moment?
Because I am a strong person who... Ow! Beating myself up thing. Of knowledge is the best power. I am always starving and wanting new knowledge, but I've noticed that I've been going towards a lot of Latin folk magic, but I've been also getting a lot passionate for high magic. The more in-depth, real, ritualistic-like magic.
So more like ceremonial magic.
More like, I want to make sure that everything is all set in order to get the results I want.
So pretty much we're saying you're doing bigger spells. Not
Bigger
necessarily...
spells, being a lot more conscious on how some spells in the past, I would do them willy-nilly and not really focus or concentrate myself to get the end result I wanted. And now I make sure that I not only know that I'm going to get what I want, but put that work into it as well. And yourself?
Currently, kind of leaning towards like full practices, conjure, cunning ways. Definitely working towards like more ancestral and spirit work. Animism, of course. It's more like going back into more traditional folk practices.
Okay. How do you feel the information about the craft now versus when you first started your journey?
Well, when I started my journey, it was during the Satanic Panic, so you pretty much had all Love and Light and Wicca, and people were afraid. They didn't want to get burned at the stake and end up in prison for doing their craft, so they weren't really showing the not so nice parts. Definitely learned a lot more in the later years as I've gotten older, and different practices are actually becoming more available. What about you? Knowing you're the same age, and obviously the Satanic Panic was a thing.
Yeah, to me, I feel that not only you make a valid point on the whole, it wasn't, readily available, but most of the information back then, when I started my journey at least, was very word of mouth. And you had to make your own and be crafty about, spells. And if you were trying to make something, it has to come from your own creative, being. And now you can just put in, love spell or freaking protection spell, and you'd get 50,000 freaking different things on Google.
Oh yeah, the internet didn't exist when I started.
I wonder, God, you make me sound like I'm ancient. Like, the same age, motherfucker. I know.
What was your first... This one doesn't count. What was your first witchcraft book? Do you remember?
I showed you my first witchcraft book.
But they don't know.
It's a small, miniaturized version of the dream book. Of explaining your dreams, and the condensed little version of, if you're falling off, it means this, or that you're not prepared enough for... It was that. What was yours?
Big Blue. The Buglin's Book of Complete Witchcraft. Complete Book of Witchcraft. Yeah. Very Wiccan based. Very much a learning book. I think I've bought that book 3 times. And yet I haven't touched this current one. But yeah. What would you say your favorite tool is? Other than your boobs.
My what?
Your boobs. Tatas?
No, that's not... Right now, you know how much I just like them. So don't even go there. My favorite tool to use in the craft has always been my scrying mirror.
It's a good choice.
But that's because early on, when I first started my journey, I didn't know what I was exactly doing when I first started to use the scrying mirror. But I learned that be careful when you're using it, because you might end up finding that you're getting information that you should never have gotten at all.
With me, I would probably say it'd be a toss-up between my crystal balls, incense burners, and my cards, my collection of cards, tarot and oracle cards.
No, I would say my second one would be my tarot cards. But the crazy fact is that sometimes when I'm having a good, clear-headed day, I don't even have to spread the cards, and I'm like, okay, I already know what I gotta do. Bye. Do you feel like you have a better understanding of who you are now than when you first started your journey into the craft?
Well, considering I started when I was like 12, 13, definitely. That was around the time that I was starting to realize who I was. Definitely understand myself now. And it was way before I came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I'm now an adult. Of course, I understand myself more than I did when I first started. How about you?
There are parts of me that I understand better, but there are other parts that I'm like, why was I so naive back then? And there's parts of me that, because I started to understand the deeper meaning of myself, that I've come to realize that towards other people, I am just a freaking lamb. So part of me sometimes is always on the defensive when it comes to other practitioners.
Yeah, that actually leads me to the next one. What would you say your biggest hindrance currently is? Or what's holding you back?
What's holding me back? There is several, but I'll condense it down into 3 things. 1, I am no longer confident when it comes to or doing something with others that are new. I will self-sabotage it. 2, I get too critical about myself. Overly critical.
So pretty much self-doubt.
It's not just a self-doubt. Yeah, I'm a very out there person. But in reality, I am not. If I don't know you, I don't want to be around you.
In other words, you're saying that you make yourself sound like an extrovert, but you're an introvert.
I'm a neurodivergent introvert ADHD chaos monster.
I contend with the chaos monster. You're definitely a chaos monster.
I am not calm unless chaos surrounds me.
I remember those days. Driving in my Camaro.
Me tossing freaking corn nuts at people, telling them to nibble my nuts.
No specific place to go, other than the local coffee shop with all the other freaks. All those goths and punks of when we were 18.
Yep.
And dating a meth head.
But
I digress.
But it's just that back then when I first started this journey, I was a lot more cocky. I thought I was invincible. I thought because I knew the craft that I could do what I want, say what I want, fuck whoever else was gonna come at me. Because I would crush them.
egotisticalness of being a teenager.
It's not just being a teenager. It was when I first started this, I did the work, got what I manifested, but I did not realize that by getting what I wanted and the way that I was getting it was affecting the people around me and essentially affecting the core within me. It took me losing my first love to knock me down, humble me, and hence where the self-doubt came from.
That sounds like a job for shadow work, as we both know.
And I'm in a constant state of shadow work. Let's be honest about that one.
It's a lifelong process, so. So what next question do you have for me?
You didn't answer the question.
The hindrances?
Mm-hmm.
Lack of time and mind going 50 million miles a minute and having to work on focus. That's why I do a lot of meditating.
What is the best advice you have received from a fellow practitioner?
Trust your instincts and your intuition. How about you?
Never pay for something if it's free out in the world.
That's a good lesson. My last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see your practice heading? And where would you like your practice to head to?
See my practice heading into helping the newer generations coming up. Helping them get through all the things that we got through, but in a much safer and knowledgeable environment. You look flabbergasted over there, like...
I was thinking of how to word this. So, you are possibly wanting to become a mentor or a teacher?
We're already being mentors and teachers by doing this.
Touché. I guess we're both on the path that we're wanting to do. Yeah, I could definitely see myself going into actually doing lessons. Whether it be on the intrawebs or in person.
I just want to end up helping someone, anyone, that doesn't necessarily know how to ask or express what they want, but they ended up finding the spark and joy in the craft.
So basically helping lead them to their own practice.
Yeah, but
there's definitely a very fine line between teaching and gatekeeping.
That's the thing. I don't want to gatekeep. I don't want to be like, no, you have to do it this way. We are constant avid on this podcast. Do it your way. What I'm saying I want to help in the way that I want to help is, back then, there was a lot of, from the older, ones, there was a lot of gatekeeping. They were like, if you weren't born into this, or, you're not going to understand it.
Yeah, there was a lot of, you have to come from a long line of witches to be a witch. It has to be hereditary. It is hereditary for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily a long line of unbroken ties to your witchcraft roots. Yeah, there's always broken lines. It was called Christianity.
But even that Christianity has tied into the craft.
It was intermingled in a lot of different traditions.
Catholicism, Christianity now, Judaism,
Voodoo, hoodoo, voodoo,
the Quran,
Kabbalah,
mm-hmm,
the Hindi, Buddhist. Yeah.
the list goes on. The fact is that I also want people to be self-aware that some people that gatekeep, and I'm not saying that everyone that does it, you'll feel it and you will know deep down, your intuition will tell you that that person that's gatekeeping has malintent and they do really bad thing to people.
Reminds me of a part of a story of a YouTuber, goth YouTuber, talking about back in the 90s when she was a teenager in the goth clubs.
Mm-hmm.
People coming up, here, listen to this. You ask them what it is. I don't reveal my sources, and walks away.
Now, I have a couple more questions. That, what was the first item you have ever bought and has been given to you?
The first item that I've bought? Probably the tarot deck, my original tarot deck. Given to me, WITCHCRAFT by Silver Ravenwolf. The book that I want to replace because when it was given to me, there are missing pages.
Now, mine, the first item I ever bought was earlier, you heard it, the little dream book. The first item that was ever given to me was, and you've seen it on my altar, a crystal rose.
Yes, if you weren't aware of that, you can put anything on your altar. If it has significance to you, it belongs there. What else you got for me?
When you first started, what type of magic did you gravitate to and why?
When I was first learning, what was pretty much available was Wicca.
Mm-hmm.
Even back then, I wasn't so much on the love and light. Kind of gravitated towards the darker side of things. Not necessarily evil, just darker and nocturnal things.
Mine was Santeria Hoodoo.
Sounds about right.
I was more on the hoodoo part because I would love to go get grave dirt and make puppets of people. And I would dress these puppets to the T.
Interesting. I know you have a good one next with that guilty grin that you have on your face.
Have you ever felt that you caused a problem because of a spell you did?
Constantly.
Why? Was that your intention, or was that a side effect?
A little bit of both, depending on the situations, without actually divulging said situations. There was a lot of unintentional revenge magic that happened in the last 15 years.
Touché.
How about you?
I can count how many times I've had an issue splatter and buckshot into people's lives that I was not intending for that to happen. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, it's probably over 20. No.
I actually wasn't thinking that.
I had 5 spells that had gone splatter, and the 5th one was the one that humbled me.
Yeah, I didn't say that it was specific spells that I did. There's a thing about intention.
Yeah, well, an intention is just a different spell form.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling that it was more of a thought form that kind of went wild.
Is there anything you wish you would have known back then when you first started that you know now?
There's a lot. I probably would have gotten a lot deeper and not put it on the back burner for a period of time. But as usual, life gets in the way. And you do what you think is right. Didn't go to church, though. I wasn't one of them witches.
One thing that I wish I would have known back then when I first started, that I know now, is if you love it, don't let anybody take it or rip it away from your hands. And have their own agendas or their own belief systems shoved down your throat.
Well said.
And the last one is, how do you feel about witchcraft becoming so trendy now that there are some kids that are not fully aware of what they're doing, but happen to get onto, TikTok or on someone's Instagram, and they see a spell that they post, and they do it themselves. How do you feel about the whole monkey see, monkey do controversy that's been going on?
That's been happening since the beginning.
Yes, but it's coming bigger, especially because we just heard that one, how they're now calling Gen Z the Christopher Columbus generation.
Because they think they're discovering shit?
Mm-hmm.
I have one quote for you.
What?
I bind you, Nancy, from doing harm against yourself and doing harm against others.
You scared?
In all actuality, that actually just shows that
the world's evolving.
The world is evolving, and it's actually becoming more safer for witches to actually be out of the broom closet. Starting to get there.
Starting to get there, but we're also getting a lot of people who are, how do I put this? There's some people that are getting hurt by random people who are, let's put it frankly, are the scum of the fucking earth. Abusing somebody, beating them to death. All because they had, in this case that I read recently, was this girl had, just like I have on my wrist, the evil eye.
Things happen in and out of the witchcraft community.
Yes. But the funny thing was that he kept asking her, and witnesses around were like, she kept saying, no, it's part of my heritage. The children wear this. That's why I say I want to end up helping people.
So basically you're talking about possibly full-on activism.
If I had the funds...
Activistism?
If I had the funds... I would buy a huge plot. Build a huge thing. And basically make it a sanctuary for people. Doesn't matter if you practice.
There is a very fine line between a commune, coven, and cult.
Yes. Well, I already said this a couple times on here. I've already been told several times that I should have been a cult leader. And I'm like, I'm not really wanting to be that. I just want to look out for the safety of people. Because, frankly, growing up, yes, I had safety. But there was times that I was alone. And I did not have that safety. And I did not have people watching out for me or caring.
That's a positive upbringing. Well, I think we have done enough talking your ear off. And going through all the craziness of what goes through our minds. Till next time, this has been Random Witchcraft. Bye. Just one more thing before we sign off for the day. If you would like to send us any comments, concerns, or any questions, or if you would like to support this podcast, or for any future endeavors, click the links below. Thank you.